Hi, and welcome back to the Outdoor Dance Symposium. I'm Simon Chatterton. I'm Strategic Lead for 101 Outdoor Arts. I'm a white male in my 50s with glasses and brown but greying hair. Coming up right now, we have our third panel session, which is looking at community, co-creation and collaboration. We'll be inputting any references and links in the chat function as we go along, so do check that out. And if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, please post them there and we'll endeavour to answer them. Closed captions can be accessed by clicking on the CC button in the bottom right-hand corner of your frame, and the session is also being scribed live as we speak by artist Temujin Gunawadina. The resulting artwork will display at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm very pleased to hand over to our session chair, Rosemary Lee.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here with this wonderful cast of panelists today to discuss outdoor works in terms of community co-curation and collaboration. This panel, I think, encompasses many different ways of working with community and engaging with them. And I'm really interested to hear these different contexts and to hear about their work. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm here to really hold the conversation and ask the questions, and also to reiterate to please ask questions that will be fielded to me so that I can ask the panelists towards the end of the session. So I've asked the panelists today to introduce themselves and tell us just in about 3 minutes a little bit about their work. So I'm going to introduce them in order and we'll hear their introductions. And I'd like to start with Subramaniam from Academy. So over to you, Suba.
Hi, lovely to see you all, and thank you, Rosemary. My name is Subramaniam. I am Artistic Director of Academy. I took over as Artistic Director the sort of beginning of the year 2000, and then things went a bit crazy. So Academy was actually founded in 1979 by a wonderful woman called Tara Rajkumar at a time when South Asian dance was just beginning to have a voice and a shape and a presence within our sort of dance culture. And since then, for over 40 years, Academy have been creating work indoors and outdoors, celebrating the plurality of all forms of South Asian dance, from Bharatanatyam and Kathak to Bollywood and to Bhangra. And so much of our work encompasses a huge amount of learning and participation work within community settings. We work a lot with artists and artist development. We do work in all sorts of settings, but also productions are a huge part of what we do. So we've been creating outdoor work from all sorts of places, from the Houses of Parliament to Trafalgar Square to tiny little gardens in residential care settings to the South Bank Centre. So collaboration, community, co-creation, co-curation is right at the heart of all of the work we create. And more, I find it really difficult to separate what we mean by production versus what we mean by work that we create with communities, for communities and within communities. So for me, it's really hard more and more for me to separate that. And that is so much at the heart of the work that we create. So about, I'm just going to just pick 2 examples of work that we've created as Academy. Over 20 years ago, we created a piece of work called Coming of Age. And there were literally 100 dancers all over the South Bank between the ages of 2 and 82. And we celebrated all forms of Indian dance, from classical South Asian forms right the way to Bollywood and Bhangra. And these weren't just community dancers, these were professional dancers. This was intergenerational in every single way. And we were interacting with people from all aspects of what we do as Academy. So it would be great. And if you can imagine that the whole of the South Bank, all over, every single bit of it is dotted with dancers of all ages, of all sorts of South Asian dance, music blaring out, communities dancing, being a part of it. So again, you're almost difficult to separate the dancers from the audience. And it was a real celebration of so much of what we do as an organization, but really the communities that we work with. And another example I wanted to share was a piece called Escapade, which was a few years later. And it was really interesting because we had this relationship with the South Bank Centre, an architectural relationship in a way, but also what it was for us. And I love the way Academy describes Escapade was an exuberant tribute to the democratic resilience of pop culture in the UK urban British South Asian core. And I love the way they describe that, because it literally was this kind of celebration of urban life, but with South Asian dance forms. And it was just like a big party. And what was brilliant about it was it brought together so much of that learning and participation work we did within communities. And once again, not separating that and bringing that as part of the kind of production element of what we were doing. So, and more in terms of where we're going, it's still a big part. So, for example, we've just had Blueprint funding to create a work around climate migration. And once again, I can't separate voices, stories, and real life experiences from the idea of the work we create. And another thing that we have is every big town will have a dance school, a Kathak dance school or a Bharatanatyam dance school. They'll have a Carnatic or a Hindustani music school. It's actually, how do we bring all of these young people and their teachers into the mix of creating work? And for our next production, this is something we really want to focus on, is actually going and finding all of these young dancers learning Bharatanatyam or Kathak, because it's a real connection to their cultures and where they come from. And also their teachers, who are choreographing incredible work, but not necessarily seen in the same realm as we're all necessarily making work. Well, how do we place a huge amount of importance and value to all of that? And why are those voices not being shared with the kind of audiences that we work with? And to me, into Academy, that's a massive kind of way, it's how we've been working, but more and more, that's something we want to bring in especially for our next work. And we're really excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful to hear what you're doing. And over to Luca Silvestrini next. Welcome, Luca.
Hi, thank you, Rosie. Yes, my name is Luca Silvestrini, he, him, and I have a short dark hair and light color eye. I'm 54 and I'm wearing a black t-shirt, and I'm in Woolwich in London, in a very small room against a plain wall. And I got my light in my face from the window. I'm opposite too. Yeah, so I'm artistic director of a company called Protein. We've been existing for over 2 decades now, and I've been doing quite a lot of working with different communities and participants in many different productions, sometimes outdoor, sometimes indoor, but always performance project with sometimes over 100 performers. And so I have an history in engaging communities and also bringing the outdoors to life, animating them. And my interest in why I started all of this, basically, I think I have a sort of belief that everyone is entitled to be involved in artistic practice, and everyone is a creator, everyone is an artist, and I enjoy bringing people together, make them create together, learn from each other. What I love about involving communities is that these projects are enriching projects for themselves, but also with their presence, they enrich the others. And so it's a mutual exchange, and everyone is unique, everyone is important, everyone has got something to offer. And that's what I think I stand for. And what else? I mean, my practice is very much when I'm involving community participants, it's not through auditions. I don't select people, is whoever comes and is interested in. And I love that sense of equality, that everyone's got something to offer, basically. And of course, when working outdoors, there is also this extra element of empowering people to feel part not just of a community, but also of a space, you know, reclaiming their space, and through a project that brings them in front of an audience. And yeah, I think more or less that's all I can say now, and then probably there will be more coming up. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you. That's great, Luca. Lovely. And now we're going to go to Marva Antoine to hear about your work. Welcome, Marva.
Hi, everyone. I am Marva Antoine. I am a beautiful Black woman. I have natural hair twist. I'm wearing glasses, and I'm also wearing a black T-shirt with our logo on it. So welcome and thank you for inviting me. I am a CEO and founder of Tropical Isles. Tropical Isles is a carnival group, award-winning carnival group with creativity at its heart. We support and present award-winning theme dance performance throughout the UK, globally, for more than 20 years. Our outreach program in East London supports hard-to-reach communities through events engagement. We also direct annual programs through carnival arts and craft alongside music, dance and theatre. We take carnival traditions to new audience by working with young people who confidently and accurately describe themselves as carnival practitioners, and by commissioning artists of excellence in their field, such as the choreographers, designers, to work alongside us. Through carnival arts, we have the educational profile to facilitate the skills development of the young people to become inspiring artists and performers. It is in our belief and experience that the engagement in the arts has a significant impact on improving life skills, educational achievements, mental health well-being, and performance abilities. Some of our notable successes to date have been the annual showcase, where for Notting Hill Carnival, where we take about 100 young people and adults to perform and present the carnival theme. And this is done through a series of workshops. So what we would do at the beginning of the year, we would invite community groups to come and join us, practice rehearsals inside and outside, and to actually put the theme on the road. We also are one of Hackney's Best Band of the Year award winners, and that's due through the carnival theme presentation, the story that we tell on the road when we're dancing and performing. And we've also taken part in the 25th anniversary for the lottery again, that was bringing 25 dancers, not professional dancers, but local community people together to be part of this exciting project. In 2020, I was commissioned to undertake the creation of the Happy Carnival parade, but due to the COVID, the program was put online. So with this joint venture, I was able to work with qualified and expertise carnival artists to support groups and organisations to be part of this online program, where we've done dance and actual workshops as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm just imagining Carnival online. I want to find out more about that. That's an extraordinary achievement. Thanks ever so much, Marva. And we're just going to go next to Jeanefer Jean-Charles. Welcome. It's lovely to have you. Over to you.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you everyone for giving the time today to being on, listening to us. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about my work. I'm Jeanefer Jean-Charles. I am a Black Caribbean female. I feel beautiful, Marva. I like the word beautiful in there. I do think we're all beautiful anyway, all of us. I'm wearing a dark blue dress and a brown headscarf, and I've got a little afro, my new hairstyle, so much easier to do and manageable. Today I'm a creative director, choreographer, mass movement specialist and consultant. It's not always been that way. Having done a degree in performing arts and then a postgrad certificate in education, I actually started my career as a secondary school teacher in a tough working class school in South London. And I think that was the making of me, and that's why I'm doing community today. After about 3.5 years of working in this school, I decided I didn't really like the restrictions and I wanted the freedom to teach dance on my terms. So left and went freelance, which allowed me to teach dance eventually worldwide, which was fantastic. And I felt that I could have a wider reach and I could make a bigger difference. I then set up a company, Bullies Ballerinas, back in the 1990s, and myself and Pearl Jordan ran this jazz dance company for 10 years. And what was special about us is we wanted to make dance really available to everyone. And also the condition when you came to see our show is you'd always have a live musician, at least one, if not a band. So that's what was really exciting about our work. After 10 years, we folded the company and I went freelance. And for a few years, I was a bit lost. To be honest, a bit directionless until I landed the job of the big dance in 2006, where I worked with over 800 dancers and created the 44 world record-breaking largest number of different dance styles being performed to one piece of music. So that was very exciting, and it actually opened my world. It was the first time I felt community dance was being respected. There were camera, lights, action, live TV on community, which was very, very exciting. And I still hear the excitement from participants today. And wherever I am, I see people nodding, and I can see Marva nodding now, remembering that experience. And so really since 2006, I've been working quite often in the outdoors, creating large scale events, not always large scale, but often with communities. And it's only recently that I've gone back to working with professional dancers on my own production of Black Victorians, which is now touring the UK. And what I really, my dream is to see this piece with 5 dancers become a mass movement piece, engaging the community and opening a dialogue around identity. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I've realized in our nervous anticipation of beginning, Suba and I forgot to give us descriptions of ourselves for anyone that's visually impaired. So I will just do that and then welcome Suba to do the same. So I'm a white woman in her early 60s with fair short hair and blue rimmed spectacles and a dark blue shirt dress with plants behind me. Suba, would you like to visually describe yourself?
Yes, I'm a dark-skinned Indian woman with shoulder-length black hair. I am wearing a white top with yellow and black flowers.
Brilliant, thank you, and sorry for forgetting. That was a really lovely way to begin, to get this breadth of experience. And I was going to start with this question, which I prepared the panel for, which was, what was your motivation, do you think, to begin this kind of work? But I have to say, I feel as if I'm hearing that in all your introductions. So I hope you won't mind me changing and asking, because what we didn't talk so much about, we talked a lot about community, but this is also about the outdoors. So I wondered if I could ask you all, and I'll ask you each individually, how you feel the outdoors, how important is the outdoors, and why is it important in your work and with communities? I hope that makes sense, but just to bring sight in there, I think it's interwoven. Shall I maybe start with Suba, actually, since you, yeah.
I think with Academy, because we're working with dance forms that are not necessarily readily seen in communities, it's not something that you might walk across a street and maybe necessarily engage with. For us, taking those dance forms to people outdoors feels like a really important thing to do. It's about putting those voices and those dance forms at the center of places and people's lives and people's thinking. So actually there is a lot, and again, you go from one end of the spectrum to sort of classical dance forms that are rarely seen unless you go to a covered theatre black box space. in sort of society, and bringing those out of those spaces and into places where people can actually engage and ask questions. And it's about instilling a curiosity about the forms and about a culture that goes with those forms, and about the stories that goes about the people of those forms. So, you know, you are opening up huge numbers of questions and engagement and opportunities for people to engage. And also, secondly, more and more for me, those dance forms and those voices can also tell real life, current, important stories. So it's about that too. And it's allowing people in and not asking people to go somewhere. It's about allowing them in and giving that engagement in their spaces, in their kind of communities for me.
Brilliant, thank you. And Marva, that I presume Carnival has always been outdoors through its history. Can you speak a little bit about that, about the places that Carnival happens and how that's embedded in the community? Have we lost Marva? I wonder if we have. I'll leave Liam to...
No, sorry,
there
I'm
you are.
back. Yeah, so I was on mute, sorry.
Don't worry.
Yeah. As we know, Carnival is an outdoor event, but Carnival can also start inside. So what happens, a lot of rehearsals are done inside, and then we prepare to go outside. The importance of dance through the using outdoor is how you use your space, because when you're wearing big costumes, you've got to make sure you don't bump into each other. You've got to learn about the distancing, and also how do you make the movement stand out in what you're wearing. So like we do have a lot of rehearsals, and if the weather's good like this, during our weekly workshops, we'll take the group outside, have a portable sound system, and do rehearsals outside. So it is very important to learn. We like choreography because it really looks good when it's on the road. And what we are really dancing to, we're dancing to the audience, we're dancing to the TV, we're dancing to family and friends, and we're trying to get that story across that you know, dance is for anybody. It's just coming in and learning how to get involved.
Thank you. That's interesting. When you said we're dancing for family and friends, for the audience, like on the sides of the street, but also for TV, that opens something up in my thought process there, because I've never thought of that sort of wider audience and cultural exchange. Yeah. Luca, can you speak a little bit about the outdoors for you and that importance and relevance with your community work?
Well, I think it's really good fun as well, and there is a lot to discover. And what is interesting for me, I've always loved to respond to a site, to be responsive and to take inspiration from the location, the people in that location, the use of that location, and all the other information. So artistically, I found it very interesting, and you're dealing with basically your performance is about sort of bring that place to life and create a connection between the performers and the people passing by or spectators through what you do. You facilitate that space. But in terms of communities, I think, as I said earlier, I find that actually there is something very, especially we tend to work with local communities when we put on street performances like Invisible Dancing or others, and they feel like they find a connection to their main, I don't know, high street or squares or other places. Yeah, they sort of reclaim a space. I think they because also these days there's so much of I don't know, I find it's very difficult to know what is public and what is private place, and nothing is actually public anymore. and feel, and people don't feel entitled to actually feel like I'm part of this. You know, this is also for me. And I always find actually there's so much to bring to people confidence about actually this is a public space, even if it's privately owned, and also because the work outdoor is accessible, it's for everyone, and sometimes it's actually free, and that it's not something to undermine, and also even if there is a ticket involved, but it's usually quite affordable, and also there is a lot of other people that actually pass by, even if they haven't got tickets, they can just, you know, so it feels really open and accessible, and basically you bring work to where people are. You're not asking them to buy a ticket to come to a theatre, which there's nothing wrong, of course, but also is about thinking who has the I don't know, the background or the feels entitled to actually buy a ticket and go to see something in a theatre, while in a street or in a park or in other kind of by the beach, or you know, everything is it's there, and people feel a little bit more invited and welcomed, I think.
Thank you. Yes. And Jeanefer, how about you in terms of outdoors and sight? And
first of all, excuse the rush just now. Of course, the postman arrived now to deliver the new world we are in.
Of course.
If I didn't answer, it would have been several knocks. So I think it's what everyone's saying, really. I feel very connected with the answers I've heard. For me as well, the outdoor arts gives everyone access, as we know, to theatre, really. And often, you could meet those who do go to theatre and those who are not really into theatre, as in buying tickets and going into a box. But with the outdoor arts, we kind of impose ourselves upon everyone. So that's one thing. The participants who take part, they don't have to really often concern themselves with getting their family and friends to buy tickets to see them. So that's a really important, proud moment that is open so that anyone can come and see them and support them. And I think that's really exciting. It also means that if you had just moved into a city and your first day was experiencing the outdoor arts, experiencing a festival, you'd think it was a great place to live, because instantly you would see something fantastic going on outside, and you would see the people, your community passing by. You'd get a real sense of the community. And I think that's what's really exciting about taking part outside. And it's also for the participants, it's a very brave thing to do. And I find that I am very careful when getting people to move from indoor rehearsal to outside, and preparing them to being so exposed, and to also get them to remember how proud they should feel to actually take that step, because most people in the audience looking at them would never have that courage. So it's quite a courageous thing. And I love seeing people break through that. And that's why I think the outdoor arts in particular is important.
Well, that's a lovely comment, that sort of seeing courage on the street in some way, and that kind of exposure. That's really beautiful. And I thought something Suba said as well that tied in with Marva about somehow bringing other cultures into a space that is open for a wide-ranging public. It made me think that maybe the streets or outdoors are a better place to try to promote that kind of openness to otherness. And that if we do it indoors, maybe that is harder. And I think that's very interesting. The panel seems to be saying that. If anybody wants to say anything on that, because I as a white person saying that, but I'm curious about that, how Suba introduced it, about being able to engage with other cultural forms and being able to ask questions and bringing that culture to those people that perhaps wouldn't go and seek it out otherwise. So something quite political and breaking bridges down because you're outside between cultures. Would anyone like to add to me saying that?
Well, in East London, in Hackney, we do have the Happy Carnival, and it's an outdoor event, and it's been happening for the last couple of years very successfully. And the whole idea of the carnival is this outdoor participation, where we have 800 dancers, performers. And what's happening, it's not just a Caribbean event, it's inviting different cultures, it's opening the doors and challenges of different communities coming in to stand and watch the showcase and see what dance is about, basically, and look at the costumes. So, and on that day, it's on we do it on a Sunday. I'm not promoting, but on that day, everybody comes together and has that shared experience. There's no arguments, there's no problems. And that's the day when we're all together, Black, white, Indian, all different cultures, and people that don't even go to I'm going to say Notting Hill, but they would come to their local community events and be part of that celebration. And that's what makes the community a stronger community, when we get together and we showcase. And what happens once they've seen that this is a really good event, then it encourages them to get in contact and see how they can get involved the following year.
Great. Is there anybody else that would like to chip in there?
Yeah, there is also something about normalizing. You know, it should be really normal to see South Asian dance in a square, in a town square, and it's not just about celebrating the forms. It's a dance form. You know, it shouldn't matter what it is. It's about telling stories. It's about engaging with the art form, and it's the more we do it, the more we normalize it.
Normalizing, that's interesting. So the streets almost, or outdoor so-called public, because it isn't always, as somehow normalizes, maybe because it's shared space. Interesting. We've all got to walk those streets. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That's really very interesting. And then picking up on something I felt that Jeanefer was touching on about, as a starting as a teacher and then as a maker, and now working in these mass settings. Can you talk to us a little bit about your choreographic process? Maybe we should come right into the choreography a little bit for a moment, and how you engage maybe non-professionals with your practice. What do you think is at the essence of your practice of working with those kinds of communities and individuals?
I think at the essence is that often when I come to work on mass movement, there's already been an organization and some funding on the table to make this big event happen. So it's not a decision that I think about and make happen. It's something that's going to happen anyway. And then the organizers think, right, we need mass movement specialists to come in, or creative director. And that's when I arrive. So the project is something that has been decided before I come into play often. So my first thing as soon as I come to work with mass movement is to think, who's taking part, who are they, who are their leaders, how often do they work, and together with what is often a local team of artists, I work on why would the participants want to take part, what's in it for them. So that's often where I come, I think about working with community. And the important thing for me is, okay, you've got an idea, you've got a concept. I really do everything I can with the local artistic team to get the participants to buy into it, to believe in it, to feel a sense of ownership, even if it wasn't their idea in the first place. And also to create choreography where there's a space where a South Asian dancer might learn a very specific Irish dance step, or vice versa. So there's a challenge for each of the community groups. But there's also a moment when that South Asian dancer or the Irish dance community can show off what they do really, really well. And I think it's that combination of what you do best and putting your best feet forward and being challenged is what I find very exciting. And as we can all imagine, there's never enough time to take that very, very far. But that's always my intention in choreography, is to ensure that the participants have a voice in the creative process.
Interesting. And that word co-curation that I was actually puzzled by in this title of the panel, and I feel like that's exactly what you're doing then, because you're working with these different genres and trying to highlight them, but also cross boundaries. Sorry, that's really interesting. Can I turn to, on the same sort of thing, but Luca, as a contemporary choreographer, and this business that Jeanefer has just picked up on in the sort of authorship, I know this is a struggle for me as a practitioner, is that it is my concept that I'm helping people, be involved in. How do you feel about that? How do you balance your own vision and their empowerment in your practice?
Yeah, that is always very interesting, that sort of balance, how to strike a balance between making people feel that they are contributing, that they sort of can contribute and bring themselves, and also as part of a vision. I think, I don't know, yeah, over the years, of course, you have a different, you develop, you refine your approach. I'm always trying to make people feel empowered through, perhaps there is a concept, but maybe the material they're creating, it comes from them, and so they feel led or facilitated, and then there is something that they're contributing also according to their backgrounds, what they bring, because they might know other style of dancing. And so I'm trying to sort of always give relevance to what they bring, where they're coming from, what they've done before, and what they're able to do. And then, but I also feel like most of the time, I feel like they actually want to be part of a bigger vision, a bigger picture, and be helped, not necessarily left alone to their own devices. So I think it's, and there's always, I mean, I've also have experiences of people not feeling particularly happy at the end. There's no point of not saying it. We all experience that. Perhaps there is some people that might complain by saying, "Oh, I didn't." I don't know. And it's always heartbreaking when you feel like you haven't met the expectations of those taking part. But it's always part of the job, I think, and it's about learning how to perhaps not creating bigger expectation or false expectations, and just very, very clear from the start what you're trying to achieve, and how much you want people to contribute. Because I think the mistake sometimes is to say, oh, this is for, you can do everything you want, and then they feel like actually there is someone who's leading here or has a concept. So it's about clarity, I guess, and it's about being very honest about what you're doing. But I always approach with a very open mind, because I love people. I love to discover what people can bring, and I'm fascinated. And actually, more and more, I feel like I let myself be led by the process more than forcing the process towards something that I don't know what it is. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if that helps.
No, it does. I mean, because we all have very different practices, so I'm sort of tailoring the question to each of you. No, that's really interesting. Suba, as a classical form, the classical forms that the Academy celebrates and embraces, I can't quite form the words, because it's a codified practice. How does that relate to community and personality within that form? How do you see it as an artist and as your role in the Academy? Sorry, I'm not sure that's a very clear question. Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, no, I do. The classical form, when we work with communities, is a starting point, because we never go out there and say, by the end of an hour's workshop with an Academy artist, you're going to learn Bharatanatyam. But it's about giving people the essence of the form, giving people an essence or a sense or a physicality of how those forms feel like in your bodies. Purely like a language to write an essay with. It's another language, another way of moving. But with that language, you can tell your own stories. This is where that co-creation, co-curation thing comes in, is because what what we do is we give people and communities we work with that. We give them the essence of that form, what it feels like, what do the gestures do, how can they tell stories. But at the same time, the stories don't have to be old, 1,000-year-old Hindu myths about the Lord Ganesh. They can be, but actually it could be about, actually, how did you feel when you woke up this morning? Did you feel a bit pants? You know, was the sun not shining and you felt a bit horrible? Well, how can we do that? How can we say that with those forms? So actually, it's, like I said, it's normalizing it. It's about today, our lives now, the stories that matter, but just using a different way of moving and telling those stories. So it doesn't become disengaged with the person who is that person right now on that day. You know, it's not a way of alienating. We never want the form to alienate the people we work with. We want the form to be another way in which you can move and tell stories and engage with anybody you want. Yeah.
That's a really brilliant answer. Thank you so much. Marva, in terms of Carnival, and how much, because this is a form that I don't know very much about, so I'm really curious, how much does an individual dancer in Carnival get to kind of contribute their own kind of style, and how much is shaped by that tradition of Carnival? Could you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. When we work with young people, so the whole idea of the young people is to come together to come up with a concept of a storytelling. So they would work together to create a piece of dance. So the dance will come from them, not from me, because I would be told to sit down and rest. So they will think about the idea, the concept. I have the vision and I can see the vision, but I lead them to create this piece of work. And what it is, it's about freestyle, the modern, we add the modern, the contemporary, there's a bit of Bhangra, there's a bit of ballet. So we mix the genres of music together within the carnival, so that it because carnival hasn't actually got a cliche dance form. It actually celebrates everybody's dance form, and it's how we bring it together and share it with each other, so that it looks more of an interesting piece and concept to watch. So we try to get everybody's ideas and see what they feel, because it's about listening to the music, how do the movements fit within the music, and they're very good at it. They are very good. So it comes from the young people themselves, and they're the ones that have that choice to do the art form, and they will go out and do their research and come back and share the experience. So we get amazing movements that really fits in and tells the story, because it's about telling the story, and you can tell the story how you like, as long as people understand what it is that you're trying to say and you're trying to tell.
Oh, sorry, I'm having a ball listening to you all and learning and enjoying the differences and the crossovers. And we've had a question from Christina, who said the panelists have all touched in different ways on the creativity of participants. Now, this is central to this, the new ACE Let's Create strategy. Don't worry, I know you're not funded by ACE, Jeanefer, but it's the strategy is about everyone is an artist, and everyone should be able to create. I would say that probably everybody in this room has known that all their working lives and believes in it. But so what she's asking is, what advice would you give to funders and commissioners supporting outdoor dance to better support the work that you do with communities? So what advice would you give? Who'd like to begin that? Do you want to put your hand up?
Yeah, I think it's always to funders and organisations. I think it's about giving it time, and which is what it deserves. It deserves that respect. It deserves the time leading up to it. It deserves the time to think about the participants' experience. So, you know, quite often I have myself personally been in a situation where I've worked on a mass movement project, and afterwards with funding, and then, you know, from the big dance, I've got to say, which was well funded, probably for the next 6 years, I had many proposals to do almost the same thing with 1/10 of the funding. And you know, the challenge was, how can you do something like this, but with a much smaller pot of money? So I would say that it's about respecting the participants' experience, giving it time, and yeah, more funding.
Anyone else? Suba. Unmute yourself, Suba.
Sorry. It's also about involving the participants right from day one. You know, it's not about us deciding. It's exactly what you just said, Jeanefer, about the fact that, you know, it's what is it the participants are getting? What is their experience? But actually putting them at the center of, you know, if I were to do this and have a massive piece of paper, they are at the center, right at the center. And also involving them in the planning. You know, what do we know? You know, what we can't go by presumptions and making kind of assumptions. So I think it's about understanding the communities we work with and putting them at the heart of the planning and the thinking and the curating. And that's how I think it needs to be. I don't think we can any longer make assumptions about our communities. I think they have to be at the heart of the thinking and the planning. And I think so much of that Let's Create is about that, is about actually it's not even about what communities need, but it's what they want and how do they want to engage with artists. And it's not making assumptions for me anyway.
I would also say that it would be good if they understood our art form a bit better and how the participants are developed through this art form, because when we talk about the carnival, it's seen as a street party, but they don't realise that through carnival, even though you have this street party, you're actually upskilling the participants to become performers. They are gonna look for jobs. They'll be able to get a portfolio ready to go to a big showcase. They would have the confidence to go to have a platform to produce their own work, and that's what we're about. And I think that there's that lack of understanding what it is that we are trying to develop. So I do feel we previously, I'm going to say, we have been ignored because they can't see us fitting into the theatre or the inside art. But when it comes to outside development, it's a totally different game and a different platform. But I'm sure the work that we all do is about finding work for our participants, enjoyment and engagement. And I think they need to look at that. There's more to dance just in carnival. There's that career element, and I think that's what's missing. And how do you support artists that want to take the next level? So they've danced in a festival, they like it. How do we move them forward? And I think that's where we get stopped, because there's not that understanding on how to create your own work. Unless you're a high profile person that can generate that income and receive this big budget, we find that with the community groups, we miss out because we're not understood in how we actually impact on that delivery.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And Luca, from your point of view, your way of working, what do you think?
Yeah, I think actually, the Let's Create I think we're all doing, we all know how important it is to enable people to be creative and engaging people in communities. And so but I think what's coming up, and I think it's very interesting to listen to all of you, is the care for the participants, is the care of the people, and that actually it's not just about involving people, but how, and also the after. That's also the legacy of there's always a lot of focus on actually making things happen, which is fantastic, and we can all pool our resources, our skills to make things even the impossible happen, by being creative. But then the after, I think, is very important. What other opportunities are there for also, understanding also the process will help the funders to probably to understand a little bit more what's behind it.
Yeah, thank you very much for those answers. So I can see two questions in the chat, and I've got one stored up that kind of relates to it. But Virginia is asking, can you speak about working with partners on attracting and engaging participants? In my experience, getting people involved takes a lot of work. And I would second that for the work we do. That may not be the case for some of our panelists. So would anyone like to speak about that in getting participants, engaging them, recruiting them? Who'd like to begin?
I can, oh, okay.
Yeah, go Luca.
No one was going, so I thought, let me be brave. But it's really hard, I understand. And but actually, I really like that. I don't know, it's one of the parts I actually enjoy the most, to kind of really go on a journey with someone or an organization, a group of people, not expecting them to understand what you're trying to do or what it's going to be or what it requires. And it's just about spending time, building a relationship, nurturing that relationship, and actually see the amazing transformation that happens at the end. The insecurity become certainties and confidence and all of that. So it's about being, I would say, passionate about knowing that it's not an easy ride. But I guess that's where you need to be, I guess, sort of, interested in that process of not knowing, how do you make people sort of get involved, having a lot of reservation, or maybe they want to, but they don't know how. So it's about nurturing their relationship and building day by day a sense of trust, and that's where lots of amazing things happen, I think.
Just before Jeanefer responds, Luca, you've already got them in the door. I think Virginia's asking how to get them in the door.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. It was also interesting.
But actually, no, because in some of my projects, I don't. This is even before they come into the door. I go to them. I go to knock the doors. I'm going to visit them. I'm going to see what they do. If it's a group of people, I'm going to attend one of their sessions, or in one of our first projects actually was really we're knocking people's doors in this little village in Italy, to try and having a cup of coffee together, or inviting them for lunch. And then, so there was a lot of that first before they actually even walk them into the door. So I've experienced that. I know it's, I don't know if I'm answering the question properly, but I think also that's where working in partnership with whoever is going to promote, produce your work has to have, and they have a connection with the locality, so they should help to, to know where the interested people are.
Food and drink works wonders, I think, as well. Jeanefer, what were you going to say?
I would say that it's about pitching. I think if I want you to come to my party, then I have to tell you how great my party will be. So I think it's in a way the same with, you know, participation. So quite often when I'm working with mass participation, there will already be a community engagement officer who may come to me and say, we still haven't got the people for this. And I'll just go back to what we've put on paper, what the ask is, what is the call to action, apart from this event is going to happen and these are the key dates. What else have we said in that pitch to make them really want to be excited and to take part and to feel that they will be able to have a voice in it? So as Luca said, one of the first things we do after really having some time working creatively is to invite people in. So actually present the whole project before they've even taken part. And I think that's really important. And I must say, often I rely on the group leader who will then, you know, if the group leader thinks this is exciting, then the participants in their group will buy it. So I often look at it as pitching, a good pitch.
And actually, Rosie, now that I understand the question better, I would say actually working outdoor is really helpful because in a way you know, by rehearsing outdoor, they already see what you're trying to do. And it's like really trying to make people understand what it is, the languages that you use. But also if you can show something, it's even better, isn't it? And outdoors that really helps.
Yeah.
There's also something about trust. I think that's a big thing, is that, you know, if you're working especially with young people, that you're not going to ask them to do anything they don't want to do. And that trust in us as facilitators of giving them the opportunity to, it's almost as if we're giving them the opportunity, but actually it isn't. It's about that shared space that we're creating, a shared safe space for people to come and be and perform and maybe be outside of their own comfort zones. So for me, the big thing right from the beginning is trust. And then when you work with partners, is sometimes having that faith that partners bring with them communities. And sometimes they don't know how to talk to those communities about what we are taking to them. And it's that sort of shared communication and language around what we're offering, which is brilliant. What both you and Jeanefer and Luca are talking about, you know, that kind of pitch versus the kind of trust versus that communication and working together. And you always have to, and the other thing that, you know, I think all of you said is time. You know, trust takes time to build. And especially, you know, with us, when we're bringing different dance forms, or something that is so classically rooted. For example, when we work with classical dance schools and teachers, to kind of convince the teachers that we're not leading their students astray, you know, like we're not suddenly going to get them to do a bit of disco in the middle of a town square, which would be great. That's another story. But, you know, that we're not, you know, sometimes people use words like dilute the form or, you know, misteach. You know, there's so much kind of politics and language that goes with it, and all of that to kind of unpick takes such a lot of time. And trust, for me, that's the thing, is trust.
And Marva, anything to add on recruiting, getting people involved?
I hate to disappoint everybody, but we really don't have any problems with recruiting. They are rushing through the door to the point that we don't know what to do with ourselves. But we have worked very hard, and it's about, and what we do with our young people, we put them in the forefront and we send them out to help with the recruitment. So it's about how do you make people that come to you to be the advocates of what you want to share. So like I said, we run all year round, and a friend will tell a friend, to the point that we have sessions. So, and they know if they're coming to dance, it's no watching. You have to take part. And they know that. Rule number one, there is no watching. I just want to see for the first time. That doesn't happen with us. You have to go in dance. Even if you've got two left legs, we don't mind. We just don't mind. So like I said, we've worked very hard, and it's about promoting the dance form, and it's showing that anybody can dance after a couple of weeks.
I like that proviso, after a couple of weeks. That's a great way to, anyone can dance. after a couple of weeks. I love that. I'm being warned that we've got just under 10 minutes left, and I had one big question, but I'm afraid it's too big to ask, which is sort of more, well, I'm going to put it out there, and I don't think it might be that the panel answers it, but I think it should be said because it's certainly an issue for me thinking about my own practice, is as the cost of living gets so much more expensive for young people, especially in the city now, to when I first began making work where there was more possibility of doing things in your spare time. Haha, have you ever heard that anymore? Spare time. You could participate without being paid, and that you would do it because you wanted to be enriched. But now that I imagine Luca is in this as well. I don't know if it's the same for the other participants that are panelists. I now pay everybody that joins in my work at the moment, because it's not possible for them to do it any other way. Now that is a big question, and I don't know if we will have time to answer it right now, but I felt that in this symposium, I needed to bring that up because it's an issue for artists working at the moment, and they don't want to feel they're exploiting people. And yet it may be that the funding bodies might expect that you can work faster, as we've all said that is what we can't do. So I think those things go hand in hand, because the commitment we're asking of the participants is quite big. But great that Marva is saying, yes, she's having to turn them away at the door. I think we have to learn something from you there, big time. Does anyone want to say anything on that? I just felt I couldn't leave that unsaid. Yeah.
I just think, Rosemary, we just got to be careful, because if you say that you pay every participant to take part, then there's only a certain amount of people who can take part, funding-wise. Exactly. And as someone, maybe fashioned, who actually built my career on taking part and volunteering so that I could work with amazing choreographers and see how they work, that was really, really important to me. And when I took part, and I imagine it's the same with a lot of participants, it's not necessarily because they want to be a dancer or an artist. It's just because it's a great thing to do, like a hobby. You don't get paid to be, to do a hobby. You don't get paid to play a tennis match, but you play in a team and you just love it for the sake of it. So I'd hate to think that that goes away. I'd love to feel that participants don't feel exploited because they're not getting paid, but it's actually a fantastic opportunity, because with participants in many of the projects I work, let's say the unpaid or the ones who are not professional stops at, participation. Everything else, the whole outfit is professional. They get the best lights, the best fireworks, the best river on the best boat on a river, the most amazing production. So I would hate for anyone to miss out on that because I only had enough money for 10 participants. And I do understand what you're saying, but it's just that getting that balance, really.
No, that's very good to have that. If anyone else wants to say, I think it's a very complex area. And I very much support what you said.
It's a very complex area. You're absolutely right, both of you. And there, of course, there are different modules, and it feels like, there are several arguments here and points to be made. I mean, one thing, for instance, I was talking to coming here at the end of rehearsal this morning, I was talking to one of the dancers I'm working with, professional dancers, said, well, about this issue. And also, I think those who have trained and gone through a profession, they're probably, if they're involved in the same project as someone that does it for an experience and because they're passionate about it, but have no training and it's not part of their world or their pathway, they probably will, if they get on the same salary level, they probably will feel quite disappointed or feel undervalued. But not because, so are we paying the time or are we paying what they bring? It's very, I think what we've been doing more recently is to offer expenses and to look after people, which I think it's important, especially in this current climate, to kind of really take on board if someone is unemployed or if someone has already a job. So I think it's quite difficult to kind of say there is only one rule. It's about really taking care of people, why they want to be there, can they afford to be there? Because also we don't want to make this experience, these participatory experiences, only available to those who actually have the money to do it.
Exactly.
Then it becomes a little bit like not very equalitarian,
Yeah.
or it's not for everyone. So we want it to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But I totally get every side of everything you're saying. It's really, really complex.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably was rather unprofessional bringing that in right at the end, but it just is something that can't be not talked about, because it is coming up a lot within the artists I talk to, but perhaps not getting across to partners and funders. So thank you so much. You've just all been brilliant and just a joy to chair. So thank you so much for your participation. And hopefully you can continue the discussion, but I'm going to hand over to Simon so I don't run over, and he can perhaps talk about the legacy of this a little bit more. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, everybody. What a really stimulating and important session, and it's so great to open up these questions in the company of people who are such experts in their field. So big thank you to our chair, Rosemary Lee, and to our panelists, Luca Silvestrini, Marva Antoine, Subramaniam, and Jeanefer Charles. Really, really thought-provoking, and yes, as Rosemary says, much more that to come out of that. But unfortunately, that's our final session for today. I'm very much hoping that everybody's going to be able to join us at 10 a.m. tomorrow for 2 more stimulating panels and our closing session at the Dance and the Outdoor Symposium. 10 o'clock to 11:20, we have a panel on architecture and scenography in outdoor dance. That's with Frauke Reckhardt, Sachi Noro, Willie Dorner, and it's chaired by foremost outdoor arts expert in critic and writer in Europe, Florian Garber. It's going to be preceded also by 10 minutes where you'll get the chance to warm yourself up for the day with the fantastic Elaine Dance. Our second session is running 11:30 to 12:40, and that's on digital play and exploration, and that will be featuring Kwesi Johnson, Nikki Watson of Coda Dance, and Laura Kriefman, ably chaired by Donna Close. So looking forward to another great day tomorrow. Very much hope to see you all to play out. Here's the digital scribing that Temujin has been frantically doing. Bye-bye.